welcome to Fireside. This show talks about everything that is strange, and we're going to talk about a lot of strange things tonight. But before we get started, let me introduce my guest. Well, not a guest, actually the host tonight, Mr. Matthew. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Brad, and thank you for giving me my proper title as host of tonight's episode. This is my guest, everyone. His name is Bradley. Bradley, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. I should just open it with you from now on. I should just all right, and we're dumping it to Matthew. You open
I'll just
it.
Jump in. I'll just jump out of somewhere. I'll dive in from off screen. I'm doing well, and I am really very excited about what we've got in store this evening. As you can see from our title and our thumbnail, it's going to be talking a little bit about Obama, particularly a project that he was involved with, which appeared on Netflix recently. Tucker Carlson did a pretty extensive interview with a very infamous character by the name of AJ. We'll get into that a little later. And, well, 'tis the season for displays, religious displays. Maybe not the religious displays you're expecting over at an Iowa courthouse. So, everybody, I want you to strap in. I want you to grab a drink of your choosing or a snack of some sort and just relax, because we're going to take you through these clips, these articles, and we're going to shed some biblical light on this topic and really see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm going to get some Martinelli's and popcorn here in a second.
Yeah, please. No, excuse yourself. Go on. We'll wait. First, we're going to open up with an article, just so that we all know what's in store here. And if you'd like to pull up the article, Brad, you can. Thank you. Barack Obama produces first fiction movie for Netflix, gave extensive notes to director for Cyberattack plot. Netflix new release, Leave the World Behind, stars Julia Roberts and Mahershala Ali. Barack and Michelle Obama have produced their first fiction film on Netflix called Leave the World Behind, a cyber attack that shuts down all the country's power, crippling the United States. The Obamas provided movie notes for director Sam Esmail's latest film starring Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, Kevin Bacon, and Ethan Hawke. It is the first fictional movie executive produced by the couple through their Higher Ground Productions company, which has a multi-year deal with Netflix. A family's getaway to a luxurious rental home takes an ominous turn when a cyber attack knocks out their devices and two strangers appear at their door, according to a description of the movie provided by Netflix.
Fascinating.
So Brad, have you heard about this movie?
No, I really haven't heard about it, and I think it's interesting that it's talking about a cyber attack.
Why does that interest you so?
Well,
Brad?
Primarily because I grew up in my careers in IT, and I think it's always interesting when they try to portray something that is that I know a lot about, and I dig into it a little further. I haven't dug into this though, and but I have questions about it, because I don't think we're as integrated and connected in life, at least enough to take us all down yet, are we? I mean, maybe I am ignorant about this, but it seems they can take down maybe the power grid. They can take down maybe the cell phones. Anything like that will be terrible. But enough to cause so much confusion. I'm fascinated, really. Let's dig into it further.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're so interested, because this segment's going to really answer some of those questions in some big ways. We'll continue with the article for now.
Mm-hmm.
Esmail told Vanity Fair that Obama thought the script was fairly close to how a crisis would actually pan out in the world today, which he had signaled, "We shouldn't wait around until the catastrophe happens. The work begins now." I think Obama would say the same thing, Esmail said. Again, a trope of the disaster genre is that you're set up with a few characters who are divided, and then they come together and defeat or overcome or get through what's occurring. But that is just not true to real life, so the work begins now. It's not really a message film, it's more of a reflection on where we're at as a society. But if there is a message, it's a warning.
Oh, that's ominous.
Yes, indeed. One scene garnered attention for characters criticizing white people in the event the world falls apart. I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people. One character in the film tells her partner. So it has. The film did get a little bit of flack I've seen for that line because it's kind of a weird thing, and I don't really know the context in which it's provided, but I mean, I'm just going to say right now that the Bible is pretty clear that when you're in Christ, it's those kind of racial divisions of the world, we can leave those behind because we could be united in faith and in truth with our Lord. The whole idea of pushing this kind of weird racial angle, I think it just further exacerbates a situation here that we've experienced in our reality. And maybe they're thinking that it's just going to carry over. If there's a catastrophic event, it's going to push those racial divisions and animosity even further. I could see that type of a thing happening. I think the table has kind of been set for that, where people are a lot less trusting of each other for more than just racial reasons. It boils down to your politics, where you're from. There's a whole lot of different reasons why people are at each other's throats these days.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of a weird angle to come out at. The call for unity, Brad. I mean, that just seems to be something that we're seeing again and again. The more we get into these topics, especially current event-based topics, I think we're just seeing more and more people saying, come together. What do you think that is?
Come together. Could be something ecumenical to me. I think we're going to see a lot of that, especially around the Christian realm, as we get closer and closer to major events that the world has never seen before, because everyone's going to want to gather together, especially around a catastrophe. Everyone wants a savior around a catastrophe, and everyone wants to help your neighbor and stuff too. But we're going to see a push for unity like nothing else from every angle, I believe. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be unity to face down the crises. And I'm wondering, ultimately, I think that call for unity, as much as humanity can give it out, as much as these kind of, I don't know, elites. I don't really like the term elites because it's a self-ascribed term. They've called themselves elites. It shows you a little bit of the egotism that they consider themselves so much higher than the rest of humanity. But they are always calling out for togetherness, oneness. We have to come together to face down the issues. And the ultimate issue for the world is the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Right.
And the reason for that simply is, at the second coming of Jesus Christ, this world passes away. So all of the people who have these huge investments in what's going on right now, temporally, they're going to have that wrenched away from them. And not just humanity. It also goes, it goes doubly, it goes triply for the fallen angels and Satan, who is down here, because he knows his time is short. The Bible tells us that Satan knows his time is short.
Something's happening. Did you see that?
Something's happening. Yeah, I did. It was a little bit of a...
Must have been a cyber
Are we
attack.
Okay? I hope not. I hope we're not cyber attacked here on the broadcast. That would be pretty ironic. But no, eventually it's just that they are as attached to this world as people who are worldly are. This is where all of their chips are placed. Satan wants his kingdom here on earth. And I think we're seeing a big push towards that. We can continue with the article.
Let me bring up the next slide here. Pop.
He had a lot of notes about the characters and the empathy we would have for them, Ismail said. I have to say, he is a big movie lover. And he wasn't just giving notes about the things that were from his background. He was giving notes as a fan of the book. And he wanted to see a really good film. The movie was adapted from a book of the same name, written by author Ruman Alem.
What's the name of the title? Title of the book again? I don't know how to say it. Ruman Alem.
Leave the World Behind is the name of the book, and it's the name of the film as well.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Which, just for the record, this film is #1 on Netflix right now. There's some debate around whether or not that's an artificially inflated type of a thing, or if there's genuinely just a buzz around it because Obama had a hand in the production, and maybe fans of Obama are watching it, and people who are not quite fans of Obama are watching it as well and saying, okay, what's this guy pushing? What's the agenda here?
Right. That's what I'm thinking too, because I'm thinking, wow, I think we talked about this a while back. In fact, I don't want to get in anyway. I'm getting ahead of your story here. I think you probably have this clip, but let's keep going.
Right. I have some clips. I do, just so we all know. In the original drafts of the script, I definitely pushed things a lot farther than they were in the film. And President Obama, having the experience he does have, was able to ground me a little bit on how things might unfold in reality, Esmail said. I am writing what I think is fiction, for the most part. I'm trying to keep it as true to life as possible, but I'm exaggerating and dramatizing. And to hear an ex-president say, "You're off by a few details," I thought I was off by a lot. The fact that he said that scared the out of me. So this kind of reminds me of a scenario that you had covered a while back on the UAP broadcast that we do, where there was a production of the producer of a show called Dark Skies, right? Darkened Skies.
Yeah.
Had some weird kind of person come up to him at a function, and this is his own personal testimony. This is not like hearsay through the grapevine. This is a first-hand experience.
Bryce Campbell and Ross Coulthart, I think, do a podcast talking about this. Yeah.
It was an interview about it, and he said that there was some mysterious man who came up and basically critiqued his shows about aliens and said, "You're good in some areas, you're close here and there, but this is not quite accurate." And he wanted to influence the script. He wanted to have it be a little more true to life than what was being produced. And I thought it was just so funny that Obama is doing the exact same thing, where he's taking it and he's saying, "You've got some good stuff here. I really like it, but if you do this instead of that, if you just change the name of this agency here, suddenly it's almost like it's playing out in real life."
Yes. Aaliyah says, and the mysterious man's name was JC. He was he didn't have a name tag when he came to the party, and the guy that was throwing the party knew everyone there except for him. I personally, I don't know about you, but I personally don't believe that this guy was, I believe he was NHI. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, definitely NHI or heavily influenced by NHI.
Right.
I think it's fair to just say it's one of the two. So we're going to now watch a bit of the trailer here, just to give you guys, because I think it's important that before we go forward, we get an idea of what it looks like, the cinematography, the feeling of it, what's going on with this thing. So here's a trailer. We're just going to watch it together. Feel free to throw up some red flags or let us know what you're thinking of it as we roll through it. But Brad, go ahead.
There's something wrong with the TV. It's all messed up.
I wonder what that means.
Or what could it mean?
It could be over in a couple of hours.
You know something. I'm sure this will turn out to be a big nothing.
We'll look back on this one day and laugh, I guarantee you.
I think that ship is heading towards us.
What? What does that mean?
We shouldn't speculate. Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there?
I don't want to panic over nothing.
I don't think this is nothing.
We're in this together till things get back to normal.
There is no going back to normal.
Get in the car!
Whoever's pulling the strings wants us to finish it. We're gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of like dragged on a little bit with the title sequence, so I cut it there. So it's like, this is garbage past this point, really. We get the picture. But yeah, that's the trailer. You can see it definitely is going for that disaster film kind of a feel. The big set pieces, all just kind of centered around this family that's going about their everyday normal life. It's not from the perspective necessarily of the people at the Pentagon or the major governmental places of the world. It's very focused on someone just like you. This is you and your family and your friends living through this event. And I think that perspective, it goes a long way in the minds of the average viewer, because if I'm watching kind of a 4-star admiral doing things, there are very few 4-star admirals active in the world that could maybe relate with that character in that position. But I think we all go on trips with our loved ones. We've all been down to the beach. How scary would it be to have that cargo ship coming down at you? Most of us drive a car every day, and you see like all the wrecked cars on the side of the roads. It's like just awful. Were
those all Teslas? I mean, is this set in the future? I mean, what's? It just seems to me, and call me a skeptic, why is my thing going out of focus? I don't know what's going on here, but maybe we're having a cyber attack.
That is tonight's theme. Brad's camera is under cyber attack. Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, looking good. Yeah.
Well, why in the world would all these things happen at the same time? I think it's interesting because the way systems are integrated, you got separate subnets on everything. Man, I'm just gonna switch this camera. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Is this one working better? Is that too much? All right, we're gonna just deal with it. I tell you, this has been a week. I had to reconfigure this whole system, so it's bound to have some flaws here. Hang on with me, boss. Well, this is going to be out of focus tonight. There's no way that all these systems can fail at the same time. It's just the famous last words, right? I'm still trying to get this thing to focus.
I could see, yeah, I could tell. That's what you're doing. This is not some weird thing he's doing. He's trying to get the camera to focus in on him. Well, it's I don't know. I think that things are pretty well integrated on some levels at this point, and I think you would only need to maybe go after some of the more major infrastructure, and we'll see that a little bit more in the segments ahead. And even then, I don't know necessarily if there is an idea of, okay, let's shut down the power grid and all of the communications, all the technology that we rely on every day. If that's a plan that you want to happen, then you're going to make it happen, no matter how many different little subgroups are divided up. All it takes is just, I think, some dedicated individuals to want to see it collapse, and the collapse can happen. So, that being said, I have not watched this film. I am going to go on record here and say I don't think you should watch the film. I don't have access to Netflix to do it. However, there was this video, and it was from the Quall brothers. They had this guest on who had seen it, and he took some really good notes on the show. So I've got a couple of clips with him kind of giving his perspective on the matter, and I think it would just be really great to just hear what he has to say and just give some additional commentary and points into what this is all about.
Okay, check this out.
I went ahead and watched that movie. Yeah. I watched it. It was depressing as crap. I mean, I was very, very, very shook from what I saw, but I really wanted to pick out some of the predictive programming stuff in there. Now, if you're like me and you believe certain things about the entertainment industry, it's kind of the evil people's way of showing them what they're going to do. I mean, there's several things in media. There's countless examples of this, but there's actually a word for this. It's almost like this weird satanic karma, right? It's called the revelation of the method. And that's actually the coined term about this kind of stuff. And it just absolves them of any bad karma because they like, hey, we told them. We told them. It was secretive, but we told them.
So,
Okay. Revelation of the
so
method.
revelation of the method. So what do you think about that concept, Brad?
It's the first time I've heard of it. I'm sure there's someone else that's more familiar with the occult than me that's probably heard of that before. But revelation of the method is something I'm going to have to study up on. I imagine it would be correct because we see all kinds of predictive programming. I can't even say it tonight. I mean, The Simpsons and everything from The Simpsons to the major soap operas of today, Family Guy, and all kinds of weird stuff. It's like, why did that happen? Why did they say this? I mean, could it be they just made so many episodes, or is this actually what they're trying to get out there? And I've even gone so far as to say, well, maybe it's not necessarily for us, but it's a communication, like a subtle, lower tone communication method that they use for the spiritual realm, the demonic spiritual realm, and say, hey, this is the plan, this is the date, this is the time, this is what we're doing. Because these things are finite beings, they might have a better communication method than we realize, but maybe they don't. We don't know. So I don't know. I don't know why these things exist. And I often wonder, it's one of the things I'm going to look up when I get to heaven. Why are there so many obvious things in media that only are obvious in retrospect?
Disseminating information would be one method that's at work here. I think that the idea that it's the revelation of the method and that there's some karmic exchange that's happening there, I think some people might believe that on some level, that when they do that, they're kind of shifting off bad energy. We see a lot of that happening. People talk about energy all the time in the New Age and in the occult. They go into detail about auras and your chi, depending on what part of the world you're studying it in, and how there's like this underlying current. So maybe, some people believe if I show them what's going on, I shift the current and suddenly my balance is better and that type of a thing. But I think it's something a little bit different. I think what Satan and the fallen angels are up to is they are trying once again to portray themselves as God, because God gives prophecy to his people. And he's very clear that he tells you the end from the beginning. Again, I always say to do this, we know that Satan wants to be like the Most High. It's an explicit desire that he has in his heart. So everything that God does, and we know all the things that God can do. We study the Bible, and you'll see a ton of information on what God can do. Really insane, miraculous things that blow the mind. Satan sees God do those things and goes, I want to do it, and you know what? I can do it. And he goes out and he does something like this, where he provides mass media. The world can eat it up and get it in their heads, and suddenly when it happens, it's just like in that movie. And he goes, yep, see, I told him it was coming, because I am like the Most High. I have that power. I can say it's going to happen, and it will happen. That's where I think this is really coming from.
Yeah, I like the way Jacques put it. He says they like to brag. Look what I'm about to do, you guys, next, and they can refer back. Hey, see, we knew it. We knew it all along. Yeah, it's prophet. It's demonic prophecy. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, because it would show a bit of their own power to their followers too. Mm-hmm. God does it for our benefit, but he also does it to prove himself. Satan and his fallen angels could be trying to prove themselves to their followers by going, yeah, you know what? There is going to be a cyber attack. Even if it sounds crazy, even if you don't see how it could happen, I'm saying there's a cyber attack, and it's going to happen. Yeah. Never mind that you're the one. It's like me saying, yeah, Brad, you're going to have a terrible house fire sometime next week. And in the back of my truck, I've got gas cans and matches. And I'm just waiting for you to be out of your house so I can light the thing on fire and then go, see, I told you were going to have a house fire. That's that's a power I have. But I could see that coming. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what's going on. Let's take another look at what this guy has to say here.
Right before the pandemic, there was a movie called Contagion, which pretty much was the COVID playbook, and that showed everything. And actually, back in like early 2000s, there was an X-Files continuation of just a different series. And 9 months before the 9/11, there was an episode about how they had a remote-controlled airliner take out the World Trade Center. And so I'm just gonna just kind of pick out some of the things that I found really interesting. Like the antagonist, he's a big money manager, so he pretty much gave him a warning that like this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take off, but good luck to you. And he was like, there's no cabal of people that run the world. No one does, which means the complete opposite,
right.
that an evil cabal does run the world. And especially if you got Obama in here, that's definitely definitely it.
So, okay, so explain that to me. If someone says there's no cabal that runs the world, and how does that mean that there is a cabal that runs the world? I didn't quite understand that.
So it's the whole idea there is that, and I've heard people say this, there's no way that people in high positions of power are colluding with each other behind the scenes and making things happen. Whenever there's an international crisis, it's real, it's genuine, it comes from a place of all of this political tension, and they can name a big long list without acknowledging the possibility that these people all meet in the same places, they all come from similar educational backgrounds, they have similar ideologies about what needs to happen. So it's not that far-fetched, I believe, to say maybe there's something going on here. Maybe these people are conspiring with each other. And essentially in the movie, what's happening is they portray it as there's this guy who's rich and he sees it coming, but he didn't see it coming because of any ties he has with any occultism or any secret societies. No. He was just a knowledgeable guy who saw this, and he saw it fit to just say, by the way, I did this on my own. I saw this coming on my own. There are no cabals. There are no secret societies behind the scenes. It's just me, a smart, rich guy who happened to know this was happening. That is all. And then, like they said, he departs from the movie. So I think that is a pretty a suspicious kind of thing. Like, why would you go out of your way to say there is not anyone controlling things from behind the scenes if there isn't, right? It's another suspicious. It's just another weird, suspicious thing. Like, go back to me with burning down the house, right? By the way, there are no gas cans in the back of my truck. I do not have a box of matches. This fire will occur naturally, and it's just from my innate knowledge of how house fires start. So that is all, and I drive away.
Very good. Josh says, because right is wrong and wrong is right, up is down and down is up. Sarah says, I think it's because people think there's a cabal, so there isn't, quote unquote. Deb says, I've heard it said it's what happens when they let go and take off to their respective hidey holes. Yeah, I've heard that, and you know what? I've often wanted to make a little app for Twitter, like that one guy who made an app to watch the planes. Watch all these planes. If they all start taking off at the same time to wherever they're going, someone should make that. I mean, hey, why are all these rich people leaving at the same time? Why are they all going to the same place? What's going on here? I don't know why that hasn't been created.
Well, here, I was just about to bring this up, and Kevin in the chat talked about it. Just like the Hawaii fires, that was an interesting thing, because Maui I was stationed at Pearl Harbor, and I had used the Maui airport, just kind of, it's I don't know what you call it, what is it, like a connected flight, and I'd been in the airport, and I'd seen like a celebrity before, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, with his bodyguards walking through the airport. Maui is a hotspot for a lot of these celebrities, and I don't remember hearing a single celebrity being on the island at the time of that fire. Which, not a one? Shouldn't we see someone, Oprah, Steven Tyler, saying it was terrifying? I was in my house, I was just having a good time on a weekend with the kids, and all of a sudden this terrible fire happened, and I stand with the people. Instead, they all just happen to not be there. Yeah, there's the Maui fire was weird for a lot of reasons. We don't need to get into it right now, but there's enough there to make you scratch your head, for sure. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. Keep going. I don't have anything else to say.
Well, I want to go to the next clip then.
There was a scene where a leaflet dropped that was, leaflet drop. So psychological warfare. So there was actually 2 instances of these. One was in Arabic that said "Death to America."
Wow. Oh, wow.
The other one was in Kevin Bacon said it's in Korean or Chinese. I don't know. And he said the character that shared that with him was out on the West Coast, so in San Diego. So East Coast got the Iranians, West Coast got the Chinese. So there's that. So again, another psychological warfare tactic. There was a scene where a leaflet dropped that was, leaflet dropped. So psychological.
That's the same clip.
Yes. Essentially, do you know what's going on there?
No, tell me.
So he's saying that in the movie, there's this terrible cyber attack. It brings down all the different systems, and leaflets were dropped on the East Coast and the West Coast, and it was two separate messages. One on the East Coast, it was in Arabic with that Death to America slogan that Iran is very fond of, so that implicates Iran as the one who cyber attacked us. But on the West Coast, it's either in Korean or in Chinese, which that could be North Korea did the cyber attack or the Chinese did the cyber attack. That would be the closest adversary to the West. So what he's saying is that essentially it's just going to mess with people when they don't have a centralized source of information or a way of even going back and forth and kind of comparing and contrasting. You're having fun there?
I'm not doing it. No, there's someone else also messing with the switching tonight. So thank you very much. They're helping us out, and it surprised me too. Okay, keep going.
Right. Well, it's just that it's saying that it was ambiguous, the source of the attack, which begs the question: who really did it? Mm-hmm. Does the American government ever do anything to harm its own citizens? I don't know. You can be the judge of that one. So does that make sense to you? Is that?
I've often heard them talking about how they drop leaflets. They drop these little pieces of paper. Things that you would get in like a fortune cookie or something, but a little bit bigger, saying, "Hey, by the way, we're going to bomb this building," or they drop a kind of like a flashbang bomb around the building. It makes a lot of racket, makes a lot of flash, and then they do that on that building that they're going to destroy before they actually drop the bomb. So people have an hour or so to get out of there, and they know, hey, this isn't a safe place. We want to get. They do that for for humanitarian reasons, for safety and stuff. At least that's what the news says, and so. It would make sense in a real life scenario that, this is good information. If you live in some place and you saw, hey, there's a leaflet falling and says that I should probably get out of here, get out of there. You have an hour. That's it. So that's something good to know.
Well, the problem with it was that it wasn't a preemptive message. It was after the fact. So it's just the cyber attack happens, and then you get a note that says "Death to America."
Wow.
Like, what am I going to do with this? I guess the supermarket's down. Won't be buying toilet paper for a while. So thank you, whoever dropped this leaflet. Yeah, I've heard that they did that too. There's I think one of the most famous kind of incidents of that was the atomic bombings happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They said that they dropped pamphlets warning people what was going to happen, and I don't think a lot of people listened because it was one of those things where, it's almost unthinkable, really, that it's going to happen. And it could also be passed off as a scare tactic. Oh, don't listen to this American propaganda. They're just trying to get in your heads. We're perfectly fine. We are winning this war. That was kind of Japan's stance. Just goes to show how closed off sometimes a nation can become and isolated from information. Right. I wonder sometimes if that happens nowadays. And really, I think people through willing ignorance might not bother ever looking further. Even if the information is there under some layers, they'll just run with kind of whatever they're given. And you're very malleable that way. So we can watch this next clip, which I have
some stuff that I saved on Twitter that I want to share with everyone that was one of the big things. So this is like the movie poster, if we can see this here. And
look at this.
Whoever the smart guy did, ball, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
So there's that, but that's not it. And then this one too. This was pretty interesting. Someone caught this. So six right here.
Oh my gosh.
So those
I
were
can't see that.
those. Well, good. I'm glad you can't, because I went out of my way. And I found something that can show it a little more clearly. It's actually the next image, if we want to pull that up when we talk about this. So you see here, it's 3 6s. There's a 6 on the mug that is accentuated. It looks like it's a 76, but that 6 is standing out. It's bold. It's in white.
It is. Yeah, I see that.
The clock down there is reading 6, and then you have the digital clock on the other side is reading 6 as well. Which I don't know. I mean, I don't want to judge anybody, but does anybody keep a digital clock on one side of their bed and a standard clock on the other side of their bed? Just
I don't think anybody uses clocks that much anymore. Period. Everyone has a cell phone. I mean, I used to have those little clocks right on the desk or on the bedstand. I'm trying to click the button back to us. That would have each one had their own alarm system that would go off. That's what it sounds like to me. But now they don't use that. I mean, you plug your phone in, you put it down, and if you're very conscious about this, and I see why it's probably a good idea, probably just keep your phone a little further away while you sleep. But it is interesting that they have all those 6s in a row. And for those that say, "Oh, come on," I used to, while in Hawaii, which is funny because Matthew and I were both in Hawaii together 10, 15 years ago, and we didn't know each other. I think we just found that out just recently. And while I was there, I was on the set of a few different TV shows. One was Lost, another was Hawaii Five-0, and I was doing extra work out there. And everything down to the toothpick is decided on. What books are being shown, what numbers, what the clock says, what bed sheets are on the bed. I mean, everything is thought about when you're doing that for that amount of money. And so I even though I don't want to read too far into it, because 666, that doesn't really mean anything, because we know 666 is I mean, biblically, just because you have 666 doesn't mean that that's the mark of the beast. It's the number of his name.
It's the number of a man.
Right.
I think that there's been enough 666ing going on out there to know that they are particularly fond of that number. Even if biblically, like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. I remember one time I was watching it was kind of like an expose about U2, and it surprised me. They had a tour, and it was Zoo TV, and they had a bunch of TV screens, and while they're playing the music, it's like visuals are on the screen, and at certain points it's just like flashing a bunch of stuff. And on the surface, you're watching, and it's just kind of like a cool light show, and they're utilizing the monitors to have different lights or whatever. You slow it down, you go frame by frame, and you have popping up over and over 666 clearly displayed on the monitors. And no one is catching that. No one in the audience is going to see that because it's moving so fast. You have to go in and do a still frame in order to see that's what's on the monitor. So I think it is significant, especially because we know that through media, there is nothing in a movie, a TV show, a book cover, a magazine cover, an advertisement, you name it. It's like you're saying, there's not a toothpick out of place. There is not a bit of a detail that is not thought out and implemented in the shot. You have full creative control over what's going on. They're spending a lot of money to get this stuff done too, so it's going to be done the way they want it to be done. So when you see that weird thing that happens to be there, I think it's a little more than a coincidental thing. And what does that mean? I don't know. Does someone on the movie personally is a fan of that number? Is the director a fan of that number? Is it one of the notes that Obama passed along and said, "Hey, make sure you have this"? I noticed that it was a little scene there you had. And
the COVID-19
Sorry, I was queuing up the next one.
It's okay. Don't worry. I just seeing it there and actually going in and looking at the frame of the movie, I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty, I think, a legit one. And the ball, too, going downward. I mean, that's another thing. You go, oh, it's just a coincidence because of the names or whatever. But the font and everything kind of lines up that way. And we know through just going over anything, you do thumbnails on YouTube. You want to get as much control over it as possible. And, these people are doing it for a movie poster. Mm-hmm. Whoever worked on that poster spent hours and hours and hours in software going over it. And I just think there's no way that you casually do that. I mean, unless it's like the biggest coincidence, but then like layering on top of that, the putting the 666 in there as well. I mean, at a certain point, it becomes a moment where it's like, come on, what's going on here? So we now have a bit of an idea of this fictitious movie plot that was put together with the help of the Obamas. I wanted to show what's happening in the real world, because I think programming can go beyond just kind of movies on Netflix. I think that, and you'll have seen it in last week's episode too, where we saw the phrase next pandemic over and over. This is just, I put these clips together, and it's specifically from the World Economic Forum. This is where all of the clips are from. I could have gone into much greater detail and pulled from presidencies, from other global organizations who talk about this. No, I was just saying, okay, let's just look at one of them, WEF, and see how much talk there's been about a cyber attack. And I think it's just what they relate it to. Really, oh man, it's something else. Let's watch this clip together. And you can tell me what you think afterward, Brad.
Let me bring it up.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shaken our economies and societies to the core and shown us how vulnerable we are to biological threats. In the digital world, similar risks are being overlooked right now. A cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics would spread faster and further than any biological virus.
What?
The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
What?
COVID-19 was known as an anticipated risk. So is the digital equivalent. Let's be better prepared for that one. The time is now.
To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
The only way to stop the exponential propagation of a COVID-like cyber threat is to fully disconnect the millions of vulnerable devices from one another and from the internet.
The frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services.
A single day without the internet would cost our economies more than $50 billion, and that's before considering the economic and societal damages should these devices be linked to essential services such as transport or healthcare.
We're in conversation with Akshay Joshi, who leads everything cybersecurity for the World Economic Forum. Let's start by asking you, what is the single most biggest threat that nations face today when it comes to cyber attacks?
We're in a period of unprecedented geopolitical instability. 93% of cyber executives and 86% of business executives have said that they expect a catastrophic cyber event over the next 2 years. 43% of those surveyed actually believe that they could materially be affected by an incident. Critical infrastructure protection, especially in light of the geopolitical instability, becomes one of the key focus areas.
We see these attacks taking place at national infrastructure, and we know that if we lose electricity, if we lose water, then people who are vulnerable, people who have illnesses, they die. This is not just about causing inconvenience.
Everyone in the underground economy is able to purchase or rent the necessary tools to conduct a cyber attack. And as we know, there is not a single country, not a single region, not a single company that can tackle the threat on its own. This is a global threat, not a surprise. It calls for a global response, and it calls for enhanced and coordinated action.
And imagine if there is a cyber attack on our air transport systems that turn a huge number of airplanes that are flying in bombs. It's absolutely naive to think that every country, being poor, being powerful or being not, being rich or being not, can tackle in its own.
History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
Was that a supercut?
Yeah, I put that together.
Oh, that's fantastic. I especially like that music at the end. You got to show me what that was. Anyway, production talk for later. That was. I was like, wow, that's kind of neat.
Nice little sting, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So you find that all from TVIs?
No, actually, I found that from just looking at World Economic Forum's various outlets on YouTube. I had looked at TVIs, and there is, okay, so people who are listening know what I'm talking about. It's a program that we have access to that allows us to sweep news organizations across the country, anything from national to international to local news. And you just can search keywords like Cyberattack, which I did, and I got a lot of hits. I got a lot of information, but it got to the point where I said, you know what, I just want to focus on one individual group, like I said, and I chose World Economic Forum because a lot of people are familiar with them at this point. A lot of people understand the kind of sinister nature that they give themselves. So just all of that, like I said, is purely sourced out of their materials. I could have probably extended it on, doubled it in time if I wanted to, but I felt like that got the point across pretty well.
That was fascinating. Yeah, call Charles Schwab. That guy gives me the creeps.
Klaus
I mean,
Schwab.
Yeah, I mean,
Charles,
Santa Claus.
Charles Schwab is the bank.
Oh, well, that gives me the creeps too. No, Klaus Schwab, is that his name? Klaus, like Santa Claus. Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something going on there, and he gives off the aura of I am in control of this, whatever it is. He is Mr. Elite himself. I don't know. Maybe I'm pulling at straws here, but
he is like the executive chairperson of the World Economic Forum. So every time there's kind of a big speech that needs to be made, he's the guy to do it. And then some of the other stuff you saw was just panels that they have, which I took just a very small amount of clips from an entire 40-minute panel they had on cybersecurity, and you just hear the same things. This is a global problem. We can't do this. No one country can do this alone. We have to be in it together. And I thought another phrase that really stuck out at me was, it doesn't matter, poor or rich, we all need to come together. When the Bible talks about the mark of the beast, it will cause the rich and the poor alike to accept the mark of the beast, that there isn't necessarily a class divide here. And that's what they're talking about on a global level with these countries, is that no matter what your economic status is, we need to find something that suits all of us, that we can all come together under the same happy umbrella and make this happen. Well, I don't want to be a part of it. I think their track record shows that there's pretty sinister stuff going on. And just also, you see, relating it to the whole pandemic thing again and again, which I know it seems like kind of a silly thing to relate it to, but these clips that were all taken over the period of like the last 3 years or so, that was very fresh in people's mind. It was something that they were actively dealing with, and it's a great way to just inspire some fear, I think, and to really make people try to get people to take it seriously, because they're saying, look, if you're struggling out there right now with all the businesses shut down and you're miserable and you're depressed, stuck inside and all of that, that's nothing compared to a cyber attack. And a cyber attack is going to happen. We need to be prepared. The time is now to get ourselves ready for the cyber attack. Like, what's the urgency here? Well, I think we know what the urgency is that there is some type of a cyber attack planned in the coming future.
Yeah, I sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
I
don't
definitely believe that there is, people say, well, is it the art, is what's the phrase? Is art mimicking society, or society mimicking art? I think there's a little bit of truth to both. I mean, if you put something out there, let's just take one side, for instance. You put something out there, you seed the mind with ideas, even terrorists, and say, oh yeah, well, we can actually look into that. Let's see if we can find some of these hackers that are on the dark web that are willing to work with us on something. That's a good idea. On the flip side, it might also be something more sinister, like, hey, by the way, we're planning to do this, and we have to inform everybody that we need to be ready for this, so let's put it out there in the media and start talking about it. Either way is detrimental to society, or either way could be helpful in getting the word out and letting people know. Either way, something is interesting is happening. I think we should be aware of it, especially if it's all over the news like this. very strange stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that we can just open up and look and make some type of a prediction about this, I think just paying attention to these things. Of course, we're not putting our faith in them. We're not making them out to be greater than God. But we do know the Bible says a time of trouble will come upon the earth, one that we've never seen before. And I think it has to be on this kind of large-scale global event with the population that we have. I think the earth is very, very populous right now, perhaps more of a population than there ever was. I know that there's a lot of kind of questioning about what was the world like before the flood. Yeah, I don't know the number of people, but I think we're rapidly approaching like 8 billion people. It's crazy.
I think we're past that, aren't we? It's absolutely crazy.
Are we past 8 billion? What's world population? Because it just keeps growing. Yeah, 8.1 billion. Yeah, we're past the mark. Yeah. So knowing that, that's a lot of people faced with a decision that ultimately it seals your fate.
Right.
There's going to come a time where it's those who have the mark of the beast in their hand or in their forehead, and those who are sealed with God's name.
And it's definitely a religious thing. We know that there is going to be a time when all religions come together, but you got to seed the mind with the idea that, hey, you got to get together. You got to get in close proximity to each other and combine ideas together to kind of to come together as one. This isn't going to be, hey, all of a sudden, all the religions come together. It's going to be a congealing slowly over time and kind of pressing the world together, because everyone has to come together over this. They're going to want to push out the idea that there is no spiritualism, and that's the whole UFO concept that we talk about on Sundays. But the coming in of, hey, let's combine as one, as we are one Earth. That we having all this trouble here on Earth, we have to combine and help each other. I think it's super important. It's super important that we talk about this. And shameless plug, we definitely need to talk more about this. If you guys are wishing to learn more about this, we talk about this every day in our Discord server. Go to patreon.com/strangenormal, and you can be a part of that too. Because every day, partner with us and help us understand this thing that's happening a little bit better by joining us in private chats, and you can do that through Patreon. We appreciate you and everyone that's helped. Right now, we're offering 25% off that only for this month. We do this once a year, and you can be a part of that Discord server that for 25% every month for life, as long as you keep it. Join us, and I'll give it back to you, Matthew, for your next topic.
Thank you. Yes, and we will be continuing to the next topic, but it is connected to what we were just talking about: predictions. Predictions. There's a man who is capable of making some really seemingly outlandish predictions, but they have a odd habit of coming true. And not every last prediction that this guy makes comes true. Believe me, I know that firsthand. But there are some major events that it's enough to turn your head and enough to say, hey, what does this guy know? And this guy just recently was reinstated to Twitter. His name is Alex Jones.
And this is by no way an endorsement.
Endorsement. I'm not endorsing Alex Jones. This is going to be a nice little study, a look at Alex Jones. Full disclosure, I did listen to quite a bit of Alex Jones during the 2016 election. I think for probably just a year, I had listened to his broadcast because at that time, it seemed like mainstream media couldn't be trusted, and there's a whole lot of stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to this guy. He was one of the news sources. Not like the only thing I listened to was Alex Jones and lived and breathed. I don't think I might not be here right now if that was the case. And no, and I don't mean any offense to any of our viewers who do listen to Alex Jones and think that he's a legitimate source of information, because as I just said, he is correct about some of these things. We're going to look into that. But there is a deeper issue going on, and that's really what I want to hit home on. Otherwise, this wouldn't really even bear talking about if there weren't just a few topics that we're going to discuss relating to Alex Jones in this interview with Tucker Carlson. Let's let Tucker introduce Alex to us.
Here we go.
So we thought it'd be interesting to start with a series of on-tape predictions that you made, some of which are so precise and so prescient that it makes the hair on my arms stand up. And I'm being sincere, and our viewers are about to see what I'm talking about. Here is a list of things that you called ahead of time.
By the middle of September, that the new policy's being written, you will all have to wear masks again, and so will airport employees.
It's happening. Mask mandates are officially back.
We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun, or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s,
this group and its leader, a person named Osama bin Laden,
he's the boogeyman they need.
We're looking at a giant war in February right now. I predict the Russians are going to roll in. They're already there. They're going to roll in.
With attacks across Ukraine, which is the size of Texas.
It really was the Iraqis. That's just because they're getting ready to invade Iraq. And what a beautiful setup.
Fascinating. So how does he know all this stuff?
Oops. So we thought it'd be interesting.
How does he know all of this stuff? You're going to ask me?
Yeah, it's a leading question. I know what's going to happen next.
Well, I don't want to say how he knows this stuff. I want Alex to tell us. So let's just go to the next clip.
All right, here we go.
How could you, in July of 2001, call that? You said they're going to have airliners fly into the World Trade Center and they're going to blame a guy called Osama bin Laden. No, leaving aside what actually happened, how could you have known that?
Well, in the longer clips, because it's a multi-hour show from July 25th, 2001, I specifically walked through all the reasons, and I knew that they were hyping up that we were about to be hit by Osama bin Laden. I knew that the World Trade Center had been attacked the first time and that the Fed's been involved helping cook the bomb and allowing it to go forward. And I just saw a lot of the pre-programming that was happening in the media, because they were on the news saying, life's about to change in America. And I was reading what the RAND Corporation was saying and what the Pentagon was putting out. I read the PNAC document from a year before, Rebuilding America's Defenses, that Dick Cheney had helped write. And it said we need a Pearl Harbor event on the American homeland to be able to bring in this police state and this control and then expand the American empire worldwide. So hundreds of pieces of data went into that prediction.
So he read the predictive programming. That's essentially what he said, right?
Essentially, yes. I think he did what we just did on this broadcast. He just went through and got some data points together and said, here's what I'm seeing. Here is what they're talking about. This is something that is laid out ahead of time. And it's not necessarily like people think, oh, it's kept so secret. Oh, who could have predicted? What is going on? No. If you look and you see what these people are saying, they spell it out very clearly, and then it happens. And it's almost just, I think the average person is taken by such surprise because they simply don't pay attention to it. And I don't think that's necessarily against them for not paying attention to it. We've all got busy lives. We've all got things that we've got to do. And it's not always easy to sit down and go through this, especially when it's darker material that you're going through too, where it's like a cyber attack. You're going to knock out all the power systems? What am I going to do? I'm not going to have any food. They're going to shut the water off? What's going on? That's like, it's disturbing kind of thoughts that I think it's intrusive enough that some people might click away. However, I'm of the mind at this point in my walk, and I've kind of always had this quality to me. I just want the truth. Just tell it to me like it is. If it's going to happen, just let me know it's going to happen. I don't want to live in ignorance. So I would rather just know, okay, this is what's going on. So that was an interesting take from Alex, who's just saying all I do is really go in and I do some research and I find out through that way. So that's a standard that I would like to hold myself to just find points of information and bring it to people's attention.
And now, that's what I love. No, sorry,
ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you. But that's and that's what I love about the Discord community is that we all have brought in stuff. Man, there's so much stuff that has been brought and that I learned that we've used on the show, even just this episode, and it's been brought from the Discord, and everyone has contributed and said, "Wow, I didn't know that." That's pretty cool. So like-minded people all in the same group.
Yeah, shout out to everybody who is in the Discord and actively contributes, and even those who just like to read it and see it. it's a really it's eye-opening because we can't all have our minds everywhere at once. There's only so much information that we can take in, and I think we have a really good spread of different topics.
Yeah.
So this we'll start going into kind of a bit of what Alex Jones believes religiously. I think it was someone in our chat even mentioned that a while back he did like more Bible prophecy, and he actually, I don't know if he still airs on it, but I know he was on like a maybe not Christian broadcasting network, but some radio affiliate that, you know, he would broadcast out to a certain number of Christian stations, because he's always kind of been embraced by some of the Christian community. He does proclaim Christianity, and I think for some people that's good enough. It's just okay. He says he's a Christian. He's right about these things. He seems to be a well-intentioned man. So let's let him have it. You know, he's a Christian guy. This is from an interview that he did with Russell Brand. I cut out the Russell Brand just for your viewing pleasure. Russell Brand, he's another one of those people who kind of gets under my skin, like him and Joe Rogan. Just because they know more than they let on. I'll leave it at that. But this was in response to Alex Jones was kind of asked about his spiritual beliefs, and this was the explanation that was given.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to pause it for a second here. Do you think Alex Jones knows more than he's letting on?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. Okay. I think even in interviews that he's given, such as his appearance on the Joe Rogan show, Joe Rogan was like pressing him on things. He's just like, "Oh, Joe, it's so much worse, Joe. If I could only tell you some of the things that I know." And it's just, anytime people do that type of a routine, I'm like, yeah, all right, spit it out. Because I don't do that with our audience, do I? Do I come on here and I say, guys, I know things that I'm just not telling you. And if you knew those things, man, you would be on just a totally different level of understanding the truth. But I'm not gonna say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm just not going to say it. And we move on. We just move on and pretend like I never said it. Like, so many people do that, really. Even with the UAP issue, too. We've seen it countless times where they say, there's a dark truth here under the surface, and it causes me to lose sleep. Yeah, if the public knew. If you knew what was going on. It's like, just say it. Just say it. Like, am I an adult? Can you just tell me what's going on in your mind?
Drum up the curiosity. Hey, that's part of the clicks. People in the chat are asking you to do the impression of Alex Jones again. You did it so well.
They are. Where are people asking for that?
Roki.
That's you. You're asking for that.
No. Roki Rojes.
I see it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I said, I've listened to enough of the guy. I got his cadence down. Let's hear the real Alex Jones talk about spiritualism and what he kind of believes spiritually.
All right, here we go.
God does things to me. I'll just say this. I'm not trying to brag. It's just you ask the question. I'll wake up at 3:35 in the morning or whenever it is, and God will say, the Spirit will say to me, you know I'm completely real. I want you to get up and walk into the kitchen, and it is going to be 3:36 exactly. And this has happened to me hundreds of times, hundreds since I was a little kid. And I walk in, and it's always the exact number. We know that butterflies can fly from central Mexico all the way to central Canada and then lay their eggs and then fly all the way back. How does it know how to go to Mexico? Well, how does it know how to go 3,000 miles? It has magnetic cones and rods in its little tiny brain that operate off the electromagnetic fields of the Earth, but they also have ancestral memory as well that's been passed on. Their bodies are a third-dimensional manifestation of that spirit energy, and so that energy is even in them. That's how the ducks, the geese know how to do it. That's how hummingbirds can fly from Georgia all the way to Guatemala. Little bitty birds over the ocean, thousands of miles. That's the power of this. And all spiritualism is tuning into the fact that humans have massive amounts of cones and rods. We have all this. We're a transceiver, and the priest class has tried to get in front of this relationship with the universe and God, and then they create these dogmas to control people instead of going directly to God.
Wow, that was a lot.
God does things
hit the
to
button
me.
Again.
It was so much. I want to see it again.
I know. So when he went from one topic to rods and cones and butterflies, I was like, okay, where are we going? We're talking about clocks to butterflies for a second there, and then he said he was trying to define spirituality. That's interesting. What his background is in religion. It's kind of confusing, to be honest.
Well, that style of information presentation, I think, is kind of typical of Alex. And I'm not saying that as like a negative critique. He does come across as a guy who he's got like a lot on his mind, and he has a lot of points. This happens to me too, where it's like, okay, I have all of these dots. I see how they're connected. How can I walk you through my thought process? And sometimes it's kind of going weird places, but at its core, you just kind of relate it back to whatever's happening. So as far as his personal experience goes, God is waking him up in the night, and he's going, and God says it's going to be this time. He looks, and it's that time. I mean, it's an impressive trick, I guess, but he says that it happens over and over and over in his life, and you almost wonder, how is this edifying? I can kind of see, I suppose, if it happened to you initially, where it's like you're on a walk with God, and God is, maybe proving himself to you in some way, because he has proved in the Bible. I mean, that's true. He proves himself to his people. We talked about that through prophecy, through miracles as well. Jesus performed many miracles during his time on earth, and that's how some people were able to see him and say, okay, this is the Son of God. This is the Messiah. He has this capability, and he's doing it out of love. But at a certain point, if you're being woken up that often, I would be asking God, okay, God, what's the point? Like, why keep waking me up in the middle of the night to look at a clock? That is a weird kind of scenario.
Almost numerology type thing going on there.
Right. Well, if he had said, I wake up and it's 3:33, I really would have gotten on him about that. But he was off by just a couple digits. He managed to dodge that bullet from me, because I would have been all over him for that. Believe me.
Just a second. Let me acknowledge this super chat. Meredith says, hit the like button and subscribe. Join us on the Discord and help support this amazing show. But most of all, accept Jesus as your Savior. Yeah, we're a bunch of Christians from many different denominations, and we all come together to talk about this. So if you guys are interested in this stuff, hit that like button, subscribe, watch us, because we're going to be talking about this stuff and more. Sorry to cut you off, Matthew, but I want to acknowledge that super chat from Meredith. Thank you, Meredith.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm glad you acknowledged it. So part of it, too, he was saying that there's a priest class that acts as a gatekeeper. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's a priest. I didn't quite understand what he was saying there. A priest class that acts as a gatekeeper. I don't understand what he was talking about.
So in some aspects, I think I agree with that, kind of what he's saying, because what is it? I would say, to me, and he didn't give this example, but an example that I can give would be the Roman Catholicism. At one point in time, you were put to death for owning a Bible. And you didn't go directly to God. You wouldn't ask for forgiveness of sins to your God. You would have to go to your priest and get forgiveness of sins. If you wanted to get someone out of purgatory faster, you would have to buy indulgences. There's a whole bunch of different things you could do, works-based things to achieve salvation or to otherwise alleviate the suffering of sin. So in that aspect, yes, there's been a class of people who say, I know I have all of the answers, and you don't need to go to God, or you don't need to read the book for yourself, because I'm like a living authority on this. So that de facto is my position. But I do disagree with him talking about we are energy. He's talking about we're energy, we're energy-based beings, and this whole type of a thing, it doesn't mesh well with me, simply because the Bible doesn't detail us ever as energy beings or having that having auras or any type of a thing. It's a very personal relationship that you have with God. It's actually really beautiful. When I came to the understanding of how I'm meant to have a relationship with God, that I'm just meant to talk to him, walk with him as a friend, as a father, it really revolutionized my faith and how I lived it out and how I view God in general. It's no longer, what do I got to do to get you to notice me? What do I have to do to receive your love. It's just, I trust that you love me. You've said you love me. You want to be near me. I have to want to be near you. Please help me to want to be near you. Please increase my faith. Please bring me to that point where we have the perfect relationship that we were meant to have. And the only reason that I don't have a perfect relationship with God is because of sin. It's not God's fault. It's my fault. I understand that. I know that. I acknowledge it. But never do I think I'm a being of energy and I'm a receiver and I need to receive this energy from this higher intelligence. And he's going to like beam it into me and give me powers. And it just, that line of thinking, it just gets weirder from there.
Right.
And I'll tell you, if we go on to this next clip, because we're going to go back to the Tucker interview, I wanted to show that clip to kind of give a bit of the background. And now we're going to look and see directly what Alex has to say about the book of Revelation.
Oh, that should be fascinating. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that about spiritualism. Let's dig into Alex's eschatology. Here we go.
Hard men make good times. Hard men make good times. Good times make soft men. Soft men make bad times.
Exactly.
And so instead of going through that cycle and the collapse of that corrupt system, now there's biological weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, all this other advanced stuff. Instead, they're going to try to use the robots and all the control and the nuclear weapons to make us finally get under their mark of the beast, finally get under their unified system of control, finally get under their social credit score, which was predicted by these incredibly connected people 2,000 years ago, that this would be the ultimate tyranny that was coming, almost psychically seeing it into the future, because of the great evil potential. Time's really a loop. It was looping back or bouncing back. Real psychics seeing into the future what was going to happen in Revelation as a potential, I believe, and it's actually a warning that we don't have to follow that course. And that's my own personal belief.
Wait, what? Can I rewind that real quick? I want to hear that one more time. Let's just hear that.
The future, because of the great evil potential. Time's really a loop. It was looping back or bouncing back. Real psychics seeing into the future what was going to happen in Revelation as a potential, I believe, and it's actually a warning that we don't have to follow that course. And that's my own personal belief.
Can you decrypt what he's... My brain is blocked. I don't know what that is tonight, but I have no idea what the guy is trying to allude to. He's talking about psychics. What?
Right. He is talking about psychics. He's saying real psychics, and he's almost going around. He's saying that time is kind of... He's talking about it as a circle. Certain events have kind of already happened. Certain timelines have played out. And what he's saying, in essence, is that Revelation is it was psychically received from a future. They were able to see the future, and they were able to see how things could pan out. But they don't have to pan out that way. And that's what's going on. That is not at all in line with biblical teaching. I shouldn't necessarily have to spell it out like this, but this prophecy is from God. It is not through psychic connection or psychic energy. It's a gift. It's a gift for you to be able to prophesy. It's actually in a list of spiritual gifts that the church receives from God. And these gifts are given out of love, and they are meant to edify and uplift. God gave it to us because it is going to come to pass, not so that we can divert Revelation and go off on a separate timeline and we don't live out what's going to happen in Revelation. Folks, we are going to live out what's happening in Revelation. We are actively living it out. Revelation is a true account. It's history written before it was made. And the reason why that's done isn't because someone had an innate power to dive forward into the time circle and to view it and see it and bring it back and say, oh, wow, I saw the future and it's going to be like this. No, God explicitly is saying, I'm going to give this to you, and I want you to share it with every Christian believer. Needs to be familiar with this book and know what is happening. That's the issue. You can't call the apostles or any of the prophets psychics. It's just fundamentally it's incorrect. He needs to get that term out of his vocabulary if he's speaking about people in the Bible, because it's not a term that appears in the Bible. He needs to say prophets. He needs to say there were prophets and they were given prophecy by God, and these are events that will come to pass. God is doing that actively to prove himself and to edify the church. That is the situation. I don't see any other way you can reckon it biblically. Right. I know that there are some ideas and doctrines that different Christians, who I believe do have good faiths, will debate over, but this is not a point of debate for me as a Christian. There's no doubt in my mind the apostles were not psychics.
That's right. Josh in this chat says you got to plug the book. There's a book called Revelation Verse by Verse, a daily devotional. It's by a company that I used to work for called Amazing Facts, and they do a very good job of going through Revelation and having you understand exactly what's going on. It's really good, and thank you for bringing that up, Josh. That is a good book. But it really decrypts what's happening there, and it doesn't. Revelation was given to John the Apostle John. He was put on Patmos, the island of Patmos, sent over there, and he received this thing. He wasn't a psychic. He was a follower of God, and it's amazing what was given to him. And all that stuff that was given to him was given to Jesus, who gave it to an angel that gave it to John to give to us. And there's a blessing in there. If you read it, you'll understand it. It's not a closed book. And it's very, very interesting what's going on, that we can actually see what's happening these days. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, we can watch this next clip, because Alex is going to get into end time events and kind of his version of what he sees, kind of the mark of the beast and how these end time events are playing out. So let's take a listen.
So instead, whether you believe in Revelation or not, the evil globalists, the selfish globalists, are using it as a blueprint and literally building the mark of the beast cashless society, where you don't just, I agree to take this mark, I can buy and sell now. You have to worship the beast that can be seen by all on earth at the same time. It describes these big holograms you've got to watch and worship. And it tells you what to do. And it tells you how to live. And it says men become women and women become men and children are set upon their parents. And there's nothing but wickedness being invented. And it describes everything that's now happening and says when they roll this out, you've got to worship this world government. You've got to worship this system and do exactly what it says, or it doesn't let you buy and sell. And so whether people believe in the Bible or not, believe in Revelation or not, it is now manifesting.
I don't see a lie in that. I am a Christian, but I don't think you need to be one to arrive at exactly the same conclusion.
Wow, Matthew, that was an incredible. I haven't seen this before. Is this a recent clip of? I mean, it's Tucker on X, so it has to be pretty recent because he's after.
Yeah, as recently as the past week.
Right. Wow. So wow. So a lot of Christians miss that, and I think that's a very, very important point, because they always skip the whole Revelation 13, go right to the end, and say, "Well, look, we're all going to be killed by this thing." There's a big, big part of it that's missing there, and he just mentioned that. Alex Jones, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm on a dog. Alex Jones, ladies and gentlemen. He just mentioned that the key element there that everyone forgets is worship. This thing makes people and says if you don't worship the beast, you will be destroyed. You will be killed. And so I'm really impressed that he said that. Anyway, I'll stop fangirling for a second.
Right. Well, I think this is a good display of why everybody does need your prayer. You should be praying for everybody. Yeah. But when you see something like this happen, pray for Alex Jones, pray for Tucker Carlson, because there are things that I feel it's like you're brushing right up against the truth. But this is such a perilous time to mix truth with error, because it just doesn't stand. When you have truth and error, you just have error. It's no longer truth. It becomes something that's defiled. God was clear about this in setting up the system for the Israelites, the whole idea about clean versus unclean. When something unclean touches the clean thing, it becomes unclean. And the only way that something can be made clean is through God, because even if you then take a clean thing and touch the unclean, the clean thing becomes unclean. It's just a mess. It's like we are really stuck in a rut without God's divine intervention and his help. And they need it. They do need it, these men, because I feel like there's a hunger for the truth. I feel like there's a desire to come to that. But I just feel like they're so dangerously on this line to where people who are going to put their trust in people like Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, they're going to get confused, because as we saw before, the whole understanding of prophecy, it just isn't there. He also used the word that it's manifesting. Really, it's not manifesting as if we have anything to do with this, because he told us, he said, we can avoid this timeline, and there was a warning so that these things don't have to come to pass. No, they are certainly coming to pass.
Yeah, they're coming to pass.
And we are not manifesting anything. This is, if anything, what you say is things are progressing in accordance with God's word.
Right.
In accordance with prophecy. And that's, although he did mention worship, he just didn't mention prophecy. He didn't mention how this actually plays out and what's going on. Because, and I don't know, ultimately, what is that? Is it a lack of faith in God? Do you not trust God enough to, when he says this will come to pass, that it will come to pass? It's the kind of faith that we need, folks. We need to have that rock solid faith in God to say, okay, this is what is being told to me by the Lord. I'm going with it. Even if it's totally not something I can picture or I can see, I trust him enough that it will, in fact, come to pass.
100%. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This is amazing me. Everything he's saying is truth and error mixed in. And that's, I think, one of the devil's favorite tactics. You got a little bit of truth in there, you got a little bit of error in there, put some worldly keywords, and now you've got all kinds of different ideas thrown together in a mix. And it all comes from not studying. You need to learn. You need to read. You have to read the Bible. The Bible is the word, the authority.
Right. Yeah, and again, just one last comment about that, the psychic ability type of a thing. I feel like if he had studied the scriptures well enough, he would know that those endowed with psychic ability, the powers of divination, are influenced by demons. That's how you receive quote unquote psychic powers. It's demonic forces whispering in your ear and communicating things to you. It is in no way affiliated with God and how he operates. So that being said, we are going to move on from this topic into the next segment of the evening, which is directly satanic. We don't have to guess on this one, folks. This one will be pretty clear and pretty wild as well. But I feel like this type of a thing happens most every year. So this is an article from Forbes. Why a satanic holiday display at the Iowa Capitol building has been allowed to stay up despite backlash.
Click.
The Satanic Temple of Iowa put up a holiday display in the Iowa Capitol building, igniting outrage from religious groups and fierce debate over free speech. But state officials claim the display followed all regulations and have allowed it to remain in place. The display features a mannequin resembling the pagan idol Baphomet with a ram's head coated in mirrors, electric candles, and what the Satanic Temple says are its 7 fundamental tenets, including its belief in the freedom to offend. And the group has a long history of pushing for freedom of religion and speech in public places. So,
Okay.
as I said, this is obviously not their first stunt. This is not the first time a Temple of Satan has tried to make a point and stand out and say, well, if you're going to make a display that's remotely Christian, Satan's got to stand right alongside it. It's only fair. This is the freedom to offend that I guess Satan has endowed them with. I mean, the strange thing is, I don't think God necessarily minds if people get offended by you, as long as you're not going out of your way to be offensive. Because by default, if I go outside and I start preaching on the street and I say, repent, ye sinners, you know, you need to be washed in the blood of the Lamb. Come to Jesus Christ. He is the only way. It's going to offend somebody. I'm going to guarantee you I'm going to offend somebody, but I'm just speaking the truth. I'm just preaching. It's not my intention to make you very upset and angry at me and want to harm me or scream in my face. I'm doing this because I love you. I believe God loves you, and this is a message that you deserve to hear. What they do as Satanists is they know they're being offensive. They have this disgusting goat statue. That's just a ram's head. There were pictures of it and even a video that I could have put up, but I decided against it because it's just like, why bother anyway? We've all kind of seen the symbolism. I think we're all familiar with it. The only interesting thing about the video that I saw when looking at it were some of their tenets, which, funny enough, they don't even adhere to themselves. The third tenet or something was, it said, you have autonomy over your own body. It is yours and no one else's. Well, I looked up just because it was like, I guarantee you this will be funny. I Googled Satanic Temple's stance on vaccination. And
okay.
On the Temple of Satan website, they say, we will not be offering any religious exemptions. We are aware of what Tenet 3 says. However, this is for the greater good. And even as Satanists, we need to do things for the greater good. You can't even follow through, can you? Yeah. Just ridiculous. That would be the only topic I could bring up by showing that video. Otherwise, it's just garbage, people. It's just garbage. Yeah. Useless garbage that will soon be incinerated, I feel.
So you didn't give a picture of the actual statue?
Not of that statue. Not of that statue. If you're looking ahead in the files.
There's new information. Do you know what happened to it?
No. When did that happen? Because this article was from yesterday.
Yeah.
What, did it get knocked over, burned down? What happened to it?
You want to see it? You want me to bring a picture?
Yeah, bring up a picture. Wow. Brad is scooping me tonight, folks. I found this article last night, and I thought, oh, yeah, this will do. Oh, there's the head.
Yep. So it looks like a military, former military officer came in. What do they call him? Come on, Matthew, you're one of these.
I am?
Former military. It's called a
veteran?
A veteran, yes. Thank you.
What?
I don't know why that wasn't coming to my head. Yeah, a veteran came in, and he knocked it down and destroyed it. And I don't have any more information on that other than that, but I saw that today. I thought, oh, wow, how about that? I wish I could show you the original. Maybe I can pull up the picture of it, but it was all decked out in these mirrors.
Yeah, it was. It's like you want to see the pre-shattered version? Yeah, it was kind of just like a big goat head thing with like a black cloak over it, and the tenets were scrawled on tablets in front of it. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect.
Where is it located, so I can get the right one?
I don't know. It's just look up Iowa Courthouse Satanic display, and then you should be able to find it easy enough.
Courthouse, yes, here it is.
He's got it. He's pulling it up.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna see it. It wasn't my intention for you to see this. But Brad is insisting that we all look upon this satanic idol.
Well, it's interesting that they broke it down. That's what I'm curious about. All right, now I'm not going to bring it up. Who wants to see it in the chat? Actually, I can't find it. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, here it is. I found it.
It got shattered. It's destroyed. All images of it.
News Channel 8. I found it. All right, let me save. Oh, they have a video of it. Come on. I want a still image. Just give me one image of it. All right, filibuster for me while we try to find this thing.
Yeah, I wish I had my top hat and my cane so I could just do a little dance for everybody. Just filibust. Just fill the air.
All right, I got it.
Oh, cool.
Here it is. Let me bring it up. Let me do that, and pop. There goes the weasel. This thing.
There she blows.
Yeah, so you can see it's a goat head, or it's with some kind of weird flower thing. I think I have it too.
It's like a wreath. It's a wreath with a pentagram on it in the middle. It's specifically going after people who observe Christmas. It's it's explicitly just an inversion of that, and yeah, not very creative. But what are you gonna do? The devil can't make anything new. He can only take and pervert and twist and do that type of a thing. But we'll continue with the article.
Yeah. All right. Here.
Yes. Rather than call for the display's removal, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, a Republican, said, "In a free society, the best response to objectionable speech is more speech, and I encourage all those of faith to join me today in praying over the Capitol and recognizing the nativity scene that will be on display, the true reasons for the seasons." She added that she found the Satanic Temple's display absolutely objectionable. Iowa Republican lawmaker Brad Sherman disagreed last week with local leaders who believed the state had little recourse to remove the display. In his December 8th newsletter, he wrote that the Iowa state constitution was founded on belief in God. It is a tortured and twisted interpretation of law that affords Satan, who is universally understood to be the enemy of God, religious expression equal to God in an institution of government that depends on God for continued blessings.
Wait,
how does that shake you?
This thing is a representation of what? Wait a second. Founded on belief in God. Iowa State. Okay. Wait. Oh, I thought they were saying the statue was founded. Okay. It is tortured and twisted representation of the law.
Brad Sherman is saying that it doesn't have a right to stand because in the Iowa State Constitution, it expressly is founded on belief in God, not belief in Satan. So it is not protected under that state constitution. Because
I have positive and negative feelings about that. I don't think that we should necessarily be too connected to our politics, and our religion should be connected. I think it's nice, and I understand what they're trying to do, and I don't like that there's satanic stuff inside our government, but at the same time, I think that we need to keep that stuff separate for the main reason of not becoming a state that is governed. Our morals, specifically the first 4 commandments, are governed by our government. You can touch the last 6 all you want. I mean, I think that's important. But how we view God and stuff, that's getting a little close. Too close to home.
Right. Well, the thing is, so this is, yes, it's clearly an obscene display of Satanism. But the United States is rife with pagan imagery and symbolism. Look no further than Washington, D.C. On the dome of the Capitol building is a mural painted, which is the apotheosis of George Washington. The term apotheosis means ascension into godhood. That's the name of the mural, is the apotheosis of George Washington. You look it up, and what it has is all the founding fathers are kind of circled around, because it's a dome, and various founding fathers have pagan gods leaning over their shoulders, instructing them. You have like Thomas Jefferson is writing out the Declaration of Independence, and he's got, I don't know who it is, maybe Hermes is on his shoulder, and you have Poseidon is represented too. But it's all of the these American icons, the figureheads of patriotism intermingling with pagan gods. So it comes down to the point where we're going to lobby against a satanic statue there, but we're not going to lobby against that mural being removed? Or what about the statue of George Washington that is in, you all right, Brad?
Yeah, my dog decides she's going to get inside the house again. Whee! And so I'm trying to grab her, but not be too obvious about it. Thanks for calling me out.
I believe me, I think everybody knew that something was going on there before I said anything.
Oh, boy.
Right? Am I right? Chat, back me up here. Back me up. We all knew something weird was happening with Brad. Is it a cat or a dog?
I'll be right back. You
problem.
Run the show for a second.
Right. I'll run it.
Just a second.
My point is that, yes, there's a statue of George Washington, which you can look up. George Washington statue, and he's clearly he's bedecked in a toga, in this type of a robe, and in the Greek fashion, even in the Masonic fashion, as I've heard, some Freemasons want to die draped in a toga. So George Washington is memorialized in a toga. Look at his hand placement. He is doing the above and below symbolism, the same one that you see on the Baphomet statue. It's just George Washington instead of a goat-headed man. That's it. That's the difference. So nobody is lobbying necessarily for that to be put away. I think it's just a matter of perspective, really, and being real with, I don't know, the national identity, that it is so heavily intertwined with paganism, even if most people don't think so, because it's just, in God we trust. Well, it has to be the right God, right? Not necessarily. So we are going to look at the last piece of this article, and then this is the kicker, folks. You stick around for this, because this is something else. On its website, the Satanic Temple says it does not worship nor believe in Satan or the supernatural, but rather advocates for freedom of religion and believes that religion should be divorced from superstition. Co-founder Lucian Greaves told local TV station KCCI that the display is meant to represent the group's belief in freedom of religion and expression. Nonetheless, the imagery has sparked local outrage and national debate on social media. Florida governor and 2024 Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis seized on the issue at a Monday town hall with CNN. He blamed rival and poll leader, former President Donald Trump, for the issue, noting that the IRS first approved the Satanic Temple status as a religion in 2019 under his presidency. Regardless of the debate, Iowa legislators appear poised to allow the display to remain in place. Dunwell, the state Republican and pastor, has defended the decision vehemently on X, noting that while he finds the display objectionable and evil, he doesn't want the state evaluating and making determinations about religions. It's not the first time the Satanic Temple has used satanic imagery in public forums in order to advance its beliefs. In 2018, the group made headlines for unveiling a Baphomet statue at the Arkansas Capitol building in protest of a Ten Commandments monument that stood on the grounds. That statue was not permitted to stay. More recently, the group has attempted to combat abortion restrictions. In Texas, it challenged new abortion laws by filing a lawsuit claiming the laws would prevent the religion from practicing its abortion rituals. But that lawsuit was dismissed earlier this year.
Huh. Wow. Wow.
So I read over this article, and I'm being serious when I say this. I believe the Spirit impressed something upon me, because when I first read through that, it stuck out to me like a sore thumb, and I just had this inclination on my heart. It was like, Matthew, look up that case that they were talking about in Arkansas. You know, we're looking at this Iowa situation right now. Look up the case that happened in Arkansas. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going for it. So I Googled Arkansas, and I wanted to look at the statues in question, because there's two statues here. One is the Baphomet statue, one is the Ten Commandments. So here was the Baphomet statue that was put on display in front of the Capitol building in Arkansas. And you can see here there's some Temple of Satan people who are protesting and, you know, bringing it out. This is the classic Baphomet type of a thing that we have. Also, doing the hand symbolism, the so above as is below, that is the symbol that I was telling you guys the statue of George Washington is doing. Look it up. It's plain as day, and just compare it side by side with this image. That is the clearly satanic thing. Now, and this is the kicker, it wasn't just look at the statue of the Baphomet, it was look at the Ten Commandments too. Pull up the Ten Commandments right now. What do you see?
I can't read it. It's too small for me on the screen.
Oh, you don't have to read it necessarily. Look at the symbol that is right up on top in between the two tablets. That is the all-seeing eye.
Oh.
Right there. Look at the very bottom of these Ten Commandments. That is the Pax Rho. That is the sign that Constantine said he saw in vision and was given the instructions, in this sign ye shall conquer. Now pay close attention to the 10 commandments that are on display. Read the last 2 commandments. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his cattle, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. That, folks, is not the biblical 10 commandments. That is the 10 commandments as listed in the Roman Catholic Catechism.
Huh. That's not from the Bible.
No, it's not from the Bible. It's not from the Bible at all. So you have this manufactured controversy where Christians are opposing the Baphomet statue, yet they're revering and fighting for the right of this statue in its place. When both of these, and I know this is a controversial thing to say, but I'm going to say it because I believe 100% is the truth, this is just as satanic as the Baphomet statue. If anything, it's even more satanic because it's so sneaky and it's going right under the radar. It also has the supposed Star of David. You will not find the Star of David anywhere in the Bible. You'll not find that symbol described anywhere in the Bible. I think the closest thing, and I don't know for sure, but Stephen, who was martyred, said the Star of Rephaim. He made mention of that. I would not be at all surprised one day to look through Earth's history and find out that the 6-pointed star that you're seeing is in fact the Star of Rephaim. Wouldn't be surprised. But here it is. I mean, it's just, to me, I looked at this and I was just like, of course. What a deceiver. What a time to be alive. I want to impress that upon us.
I just learned I could do this. Oh, fascinating. Now I can zoom in on it.
Cool.
Oh, it's fantastic. Great.
Nice. How far are we zooming in on this?
All the way. I'm just looking at it closer so I can actually see it.
But this is it. I just want to invoke that quote from Charles Spurgeon, who said that discernment, and I'm paraphrasing here, but discernment is not knowing between right and wrong. It's knowing between right and almost right. This is the kind of discernment we need, folks. Not to be drawn away and look at the Baphomet statue only and say, that's disgusting, that doesn't belong there. Look at this. Look at the 10 Commandments statue too, and realize that this is not in line with biblical teaching. It was just amazing. And that's why I said I truly believe that God led me to do that, because during my time when I was coming out of Catholicism, I found out that the Catholic Church had altered the 10 Commandments, and I was like, no way. And I read in Exodus, and I read them down, and I'm like, there they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Boom, got it. I open up the Catechism, because I have a copy of the Catechism, and in there, it's blatant. It's on the same page. They have the 10 Commandments as listed in Exodus, and then they have the 10 Commandments as according to like church tradition.
Yeah.
And they just put them side by side. And what happens is, thou shalt not make to thyself any graven images. That is just, it's just totally messed with, because it's so much longer than that.
Right.
And
well, not only that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. But I want to mention something about that.
No, go ahead.
If you notice the indentions, that first, thou shalt have no other gods before me, thou shalt and then it goes into what is the second commandment, thou shalt not make thyself any graven images. They combine those, don't they? And so if you look at the Sabbath commandment, which is the 4th commandment in the Bible, it's indented as the 3rd. So you have, thou shalt have no other gods, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, and remember the Sabbath. Then it goes into the last 6, which is honor thy father and mother,
right,
and all that. So that's another telling sign that it's a Catholic-made 10 Commandments.
Yeah, and just the splitting of the final commandment, which goes from the commandment's supposed to just be one of not coveting, but it's explicitly split apart into 2 thous. Thou shalt not covet, and then thou shalt not covet again. It's just another telltale thing.
Fascinating. Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, just the symbols too. I mean, it's just I think so blatant with the symbolism. That all-seeing eye on top really gives the game away. When you see that, you just know something's up there.
Oh yeah. That's really interesting that they keep that at the top there. I see it right there. Huh. Interesting. Why in the world? And where is this located? This one specifically?
Arkansas, Capitol State Building. That's
Arkansas.
it. That's it.
It's still there, or they take this thing down?
No, this one is still. Actually, I don't know. It might have been shattered by someone who was like an anti-Christian. I recall seeing some type of an article about that, but I think it was replaced. But this appears to be an older one of when it was first instated, so that's what it's all about.
Wow. Very good. Very, very good. Very interesting. We had some really good turnout tonight. Fascinating, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I hope we all enjoyed that this broadcast. I had a great time putting it together, and if we want to take a minute, we can go in through some of the chat. Do you have time for that tonight,
Yeah,
Brad?
let's do it.
Talk to the chat. See what we said. Josh Vance right away saying you should do a talk on Freemasonry. Well, Josh, I think that the more we discuss some of these topics, we are going to touch upon Freemasonry regardless. There might come a time where, I'll put together a segment explicitly on Freemasonry and its influences and its symbols and how it's being permeated. But I think just it's enough to do these segments and just dig a little bit, and you're gonna find that there. I mean, this is kind of with I suppose. I mean, just look back through the segments. I do pick them out specifically because they have a spiritual tie to them. The first one talking about how the people were satanic and they were doing what was it? The principle he was talking about, the revelation of the method, is what he was talking about, and talking about shifting karmic balance. But there was the idea that it's Satan trying to mimic God's prophecy. It's talking about the Alex Jones stuff. Well, what does Alex Jones believe spiritually? It's talking about very clearly a satanic statue. In that one's like on the nose. You don't have to really look too hard to see what's going on, but always relating it to just the biblical concerns and that type of a thing. Freemasons say they're not religious. Yeah, no, they certainly are. They acknowledge that there's a grand architect and a higher power, and it's called a Masonic temple.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a Masonic clubhouse. It's a temple. There's religious stuff going on there.
I'm looking for question marks throughout the chat, trying to find if anybody asking any questions. I'm finding a few. Why is religion in the capital? Dog got in again. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog was stealing the show.
Yep. Which commandment is wrong? Yeah, we covered that a little bit. They split them up.
Yeah, I see someone saying that it was the correct 10. I don't believe so. I mean, I looked it over.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Because of the idol, it's the idol thing. They worship the saints, and so they didn't like that. I mean, this is my surmising. I haven't been a Catholic, but they had to get rid of the don't worship idol part, because that is part of the saints. You know, worship Mary, revere her, Saint Peter, all this stuff, and so they took that out and split another one and made 10. So it's interesting to see what happens. That's why they're out of order.
Yeah, here, you can look it up. I mean, it's people who know about it do debate about it. And yeah, it's if I just go up to the catechism, like that's really what it's about. Catechism. Which like I said, I still do have a copy of it. It was funny because I threw out a lot of icons and idols and all sorts of stuff when I moved away from Catholicism, but that expressly having the catechism, there was something on my heart that said, no, keep this, because there's too much in here that you can use to refute the system. Having that book, ironically, was a big factor in me being able to go through and say, what does the Bible say? What does this book say? And where are the differences? And when the difference is just amount and amount and amount, it's like, okay, this is useful, not in the way they were hoping that it would be useful.
Oh, Aaliyah's poking you.
She's poking at me? Where? When is Matthew and Eric going to share their story about being on that haunted Navy ship? Oh. Sorry, my mind was like split in 3 directions when I was reading that. I got to talk to Eric about it. It's one of those things, which we have kind of talked about it. It would be, what I'd want to do is have a decent like narrative to give you guys. I wouldn't just want to shotgun you with like, this weird thing happened and that weird thing happened and oh, it was weird here and oh, someone did something weird there, which there was plenty of that. I would kind of want to be able to walk through it, which I think Eric was on board that ship only like 2 weeks before I was. So our time, it overlapped pretty heavily. And because we were arrived at a similar time, we left at a similar time. And so like we would have 2 points of view of the same duration of time. And I just want it to be edifying, realistically. I just want it to be something that's uplifting, because I could sit here and tell you all of the weird ghost stories and the cursed stuff that happened on the ship that we were on. Certainly real and happened. And I didn't have necessarily a biblical lens to view them through, so it was extra creepy. But I would want to be able to tell the stories and then walk away with something uplifting. Otherwise, I don't feel like it's they're sometimes worth sharing. And I've shared some of the stories on air when I felt that it was worth sharing. I could tie it in and let it mean something, But yeah, a full show on that could be happening before too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I see that the M Saint G, who was asking about that, said that they saw that the 9th was wrong and they agree. Okay, glad we cleared that up, because I was gonna say I don't just go on here and throw stuff out. I'm like, I do really like to research whatever I'm putting out, and if it's not legit, I just you won't see it. Like I said, I do this thoughtfully, and I don't just throw things up on the screen. Not to say that's what you were saying I was doing or anything like that. I just want to make sure that the point I was making was made properly, because there is some confusion with that. Last episode, I actually saw some people thought that somehow I didn't agree with the woman, Meryl Nass, who was talking about what the Who had planned and that type of a thing. And it's kind of on me, I think. Because I structured that segment the way I did it. And if you watch it, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to show you the clip and then I'm going to give you the context, because this is how I saw the clip and I imagine how everybody else saw the clip. So I was just like, boom, drop the clip on you. You don't know any information about her. Then I went back and I said, okay, let's fill in the blanks. Who is this woman? What's the status? Where is she at? Where was she speaking? Is what she's saying, does it have any merit? And I went through, and then, the whole concluding part of that segment was a super cut that I made of everyone saying the next pandemic. So I thought at that point it was clear that what she had said initially, as outlandish as it seemed, and as strange as it seemed, did have some merit to it, because of all of the creepy, weird stuff that the World Health Organization is actively putting out. So once again, I just want to be clear with people about what's going on.
And it was partly my fault too, because I was so inundated with switching the show and making sure I knew what was next coming up that I wasn't completely paying attention to what he was saying, so I wasn't able to catch it and go, wait, what do you mean by that?
It was a woman, Brad. So I guess.
No, you. I said.
Oh, me. Okay, I'm sorry. When you said he, I thought you were talking about the doctor on the panel. I was like,
no, I appreciate it.
Don't do her like that, Brad. Don't.
Well, that's because that's why I love having 2 people on the show. Because number one, someone could talk while I'm trying to figure out what's next. But number 2, we can catch each other, and what we're saying. Because I say the wrong thing all the time. I run another real estate channel, and And I'm always saying the wrong city that I'm talking about. And my wife says, no, you can't post that yet. You got to go back and edit it because you said this county instead of the other county. By the way, if anybody's interested and you are in Chattanooga, you have to be in Chattanooga. You can follow me on that channel. But if you're not, it actually hurts the channel if you go in there and subscribe to me and then you don't go watch the videos because you're not going to be interested in what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the city of Chattanooga. So don't do that. Don't go watch a portion of it and then leave. You want to watch the whole thing. You want to watch them when they come out. But that said, I mentioned the channel and I wasn't going to mention that on here because I didn't want to have a bunch of people join the channel that were just ghosting. They're not going to watch the content on there because it's not interesting to them. We're selling houses, people. I'm a real estate agent. But anyways, yeah, that's why I like to have two people on here so we can check each other. And Matthew didn't do anything wrong. And we were just, lots going on. So.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's important, too, that people do, if you perceive any wrongness or anything like that, do leave the comments. Let me know, because that's going to help. That type of feedback helps out of like, okay, how am I going to structure this segment to now, make it like the whole showing an Alex Jones segment, right? If I had just kind of jumped into that without any prefacing, it could have really confused some people and they would have said, there's a lot of stuff surrounding Alex Jones that I'm not even going to go into here because you could sit for a while and talk about some of the stuff that he's been involved in and has done and has not necessarily been repentant about at all. Things that you probably might not even know are related to him, but that's beside the point, really.
Yeah.
Let's see what the chat's talking about here. Yeah, talking about the changing of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. That's something that one of the doctrines that I hold to. I do believe that the Sabbath is what we refer to as Saturday. It's the seventh day of the week. It is the day that God set aside in the Ten Commandments, so on and so on. I don't think, if we have any people who worship on Sunday, I don't think that you're not a Christian and that I'm more of a Christian necessarily, but it's an understanding that I've come to through studying the Bible, and it's just what makes sense to me. But yeah, talking about Constantine specifically, Constantine is a very pivotal character in Christian history, for better or for worse, because he essentially, I feel, made a lot of the traditions that modern Christianity follows. He put those in place. And regarding even the Sabbath issue, one of the things that he did was not only was Sunday made to be the day that Christians were to worship, you would be punished for what was referred to as Judaizing the Sabbath day on Saturday. So it wasn't just a Sunday legislation that was put into place. It was also, you're not going to worship on the Sabbath or you're getting in legal trouble. So, and I know just from talking to different Christians that some people believe at the end of these end times, you'll actually see that. You'll see a Sunday legislation put in place and then a punishment for the Saturday as well. And that's the kicker. It's like a two-part thing. It's not necessarily like you just have to worship on Sunday. Everybody who's doing the Sabbath, like, yeah, whatever, let them go. It's no. They're worshiping Sabbath, get them. Like, they're not allowed to do that. They need to be worshiping on Sunday. And at that point, I think any Christian should be looking at that situation like, wait, why? What's going on here? What threat do Sabbath keepers pose to us? Are they really doing anything terribly wrong? So.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see some major events happen even before then that will reveal authorities in the sky, i.e. Satan himself, posing as Christ, claiming that this thing is that he has changed the law. And I think we're going to actually see that. And if you do see that, let the reader understand that this is dangerous. And so that's why we talk about what the spiritualness of this channel, because the spiritual side is coming first, folks. The spiritual side is going to happen, and it's gonna be absolutely wondrous. I'm not saying wonderful as in like awesome. I'm saying wonderful. Well, I'm not saying wonderful as in that's great. I'm saying wonderful as in full of awe and wonder. And that's going to be just some strange stuff.
In the literal sense, it
right.
will be wonderful. It will be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Mitch says, what doctrine of RCC, Roman Catholic Church, is the central doctrine that all their other doctrines are built upon? The Trinity doctrine is the center of their religious teachings. So, Mitch, I don't know if maybe you disagree with the idea of the Trinity, but I, having come out of the Catholic Church and needing to evaluate each doctrine and say, okay, what is true and what is false, I do think there is enough biblical evidence for the Trinity, that that it is one God in three, essentially, persons, and that Jesus Christ is part of God, God the Father, and then you have the Holy Spirit. Of course, we all know the Trinity at this point. There's a lot of different scriptures I suppose I could pull from, but one thing that I think is very telling of even people in Jesus' own time is that they took up stones to stone him because he made himself equal with God when he said that he is the Son of God. They knew what that implied, that it was more than just this man is a perfect created being given to mankind. He is saying, I'm right there with the Father. I and the Father are one in terms of hierarchy. Like that's how it's defined. And like I said, there are other places I could pull from.
Like Matthew 28, go therefore and make disciples of all nations. This is Jesus talking. And say, baptize them in the name of the Father, capital F, the Son, capital S, and of the Holy Spirit, capital H, capital S. The Bible, I mean, obviously the punctuation in the Bible wasn't inspired, but it does say 3 different names, and we should baptize in those 3 names. And so even though the word Trinity isn't necessarily in the Bible, it is definitely a concept of God in 3 persons. And so I believe that is also a very biblical term.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm saying, it comes from some of the verses out of the Bible. I'm not going to attach myself to any doctrine unless I feel there's sufficient biblical evidence for it. And I think even, like Satan, of course, he's got to sprinkle truth in with the lies, and sometimes he'll give you a nugget of truth and sprinkle lies on top of it. And we talked about that in the broadcast. That's still error. Like, truth from God has got to be pure. It's got to be it doesn't need necessarily refining because it's coming right out of him as truth. I do think that some things of the Catholic Church, like Catholic Church, is not going to tell you Jesus is not the Son of God. Like they're not going to debate that statement. So that's a true statement coming out of the Roman Catholic Church. It's just, okay, what is surrounding it? What are we using that doctrine for, and how is it being misapplied in other places? And this is where discernment comes in. Like I said, it's that knowing between right and almost right, and just always trying to go with what is right.
I want to add one more verse to that, 2 Corinthians 13:14. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all. And I think that's an interesting. You have a verse that has all 3 in it, and so it's interesting. And this is a big, for some reason, every once in a while, and this happens in all churches, not just one denomination over the other. It happens in non-denominational churches as well, where you have someone come in and they convince a large section of people that of an error. And this has been I'm going to call it as it is. This is an error. If you stop believing in the Holy Spirit, you stop believing in the power that helps you overcome. The power that helps you overcome. If you don't believe in that anymore, God help you. I mean, this is the power of God. This is the Holy Spirit. He is a person, and so I think it's an important part. And if you stop believing in it, that's a very difficult thing you're putting yourself into. So I have taken a very strong stance on that. We don't really talk about this on this channel because it's not really the relevant topic. But if it comes up, it comes up, and we'll speak about it. We got a super chat. You want to grab that, Matt? Unless you have something to say.
No, I'll check out this superb chat that we've received. Marie says, I am so incredibly grateful for your dedication, Bradley, and everyone involved on this vital topic. lit by Scripture. Thank you very much. This is what it's all about, really. Just bringing it back to a biblical understanding of what's going on,
Right.
and hoping that everybody gets something out of that. That is the theme. It's funny. We actually, one of the older videos on the channel, not too much older, it was done in the last year, but it was specifically on Chris Bledsoe, which I think you're going to be
This Sunday we're going to
bringing
tackle
it
that.
back, bringing it back around. So you guys are going to see maybe round 2 of that. But it's been getting some traction just because his name is again in some of the headlines in some circles, and people are looking up his name, and it's redirecting them to this channel. So thank you everybody watching. That's what happens when you like the videos. That's what happens when you subscribe and you're engaged. It does work. It pushes it out to people who normally don't see it. And one guy, his name is like Satanic, legitimately Satanic, with like instead of a 7, instead of a T, it's a 7. And he like in quotations he says like we're looking at this with a biblical understanding. Yeah, anybody with a brain just left. Like, of course you, a guy with your name is Satanic, is going to say that, man.
Is that on
thanks
the
for watching.
Is that on the
It's
Bledsoe
one
video?
of the comments. Yeah, it's one of the comments. So, so the guy who goes by Satanic, if you're watching tonight, it's never too late. Give your heart over to God, buddy. We're going to be praying for you.
Absolutely.
That's fine. And I definitely don't think your brain is out of your head if you're looking at things with a biblical perspective, because that's, for me, that's how you can make sense of this stuff. Believe me, I was walking for a while without a biblical understanding, and I was so confused. I was saying, why are these things happening? How are they happening? What is going to happen next? All of the fear and the worries, it just completely melted away. I am I've felt the heart change, and I'm at ease with where we're at in the world. I'm actually excited. I'm excited for Jesus to come back. There was a point in time where I used to think, I would watch like the disaster films, right? And where everything is like getting wiped out by the comet or the nuclear explosions. It made me sick in my stomach. I'd be like, no, not the pyramids. No, not the Statue of Liberty. Why? Why does it have to go away? I love these things. And now if I see those clips, I'm just like, accurate. When Jesus comes back, they will be going away. Doesn't bother me at all. And I'm looking forward to a new earth without any monuments to Satan.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
We can all look forward to that.
Believe in the Holy Spirit. Let's see. Bear witness. Oh, 1 John 5:7. For this is what Sarah said. For there are 3 that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit, and these 3 are one. Yeah, that's actually probably the first verse I should have gone to. And obviously the Word is Jesus, because 1 John 1:1 says that.
Oh, it's that. And there's a couple of other places. Like I said, I do feel like there is enough biblical material that's the way it is. I don't see it any other way. True Royalty says there is no answer for why 7 days a week without the Bible. All the other gods are restricted on this point supernaturally. Yeah, that's a cool point. I don't know if I've seen that point been made before. Is there another religion that gives an explanation for 7 days in a week? Or
There's
is that
no explanation? Yeah,
really?
I've heard that brought up.
Because there's a lot of creation myths, there's a lot of flood myths, there's a lot of, you can go and see all over the world where Satan has tried to copy aspects of the Bible and just reproduce them in different ways. But that's a really interesting one. I don't know if I've ever seen.
I mean,
this is why we have 7 days. There has to be one, right?
There's
There has to be one.
One
religion.
cycle is Earth's 1 day, right? So that's an Earth cycle, and then you got and then let's skip the week, go to a month. That's a lunar cycle, basically, and then after a month you got a year. That's a cycle around the sun, right? And what do you have after that? I mean, the only thing you have is.
I mean, that's pretty much it, right? You're just circling the sun at that point.
There has been places that have tried to go to 10-day week cycles, and it really messes things up. Your bodily functions. They found that they had their cattle or horses or whatever it was. I got to look up the article again, but they were dying faster when they went to a 10-day cycle, and it was
that's weird.
Yeah, so there's something to do with this 7-day cycle that's very important for the body, and it doesn't have anything to do with the stars, with the lunar cycles, with anything. And we know this is going on. It's been continuing throughout history because we've had the Jewish nation from Israel all the way up keep the Sabbath. And that's not a nation that's going to forget with their cycle. So it's not like, oh, we forgot a day. And there has been dates that have been changed on the calendar, going from one calendar to another, but it never actually changed the weekly cycle. We might have changed a number or 2 or 10, but it continued in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It just Wednesday became from the 7th to the 17th or something. So there's all kinds of things that people say, well, we don't know exactly what day the weekly cycle is, but we do. We really do.
Right. Well, even people make the argument about that the Roman Catholic Church changed the times, but it was still, the days were in order. It was just the dates were changed. They jumped ahead like 2 weeks or something, but it retained the day of the week. It wasn't like it was Wednesday and then they're like, no, it's no longer Wednesday. Today's a Monday. People still just went along. It was the same days of the week, so we still have that 7-day cycle uninterrupted. I was going to say, though, the 2 books that are kind of messed with and attacked the most, I would say, it's the Genesis and Revelation, right? They're the 2 really most misunderstood, misconstrued books, because it's like if you can mess with the beginning enough, then you can mess with the end enough, and then everything in the middle just kind of can become confused, and you can really go wherever you want with it. Because at that point, the beginning of the story is messed up, the end of the story is messed up. Who cares about details in the middle? We'll debate over each point. So
here's something interesting from the comments. I hadn't thought about this. True royalty, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it's something to think about that I haven't thought about before. The reason the cycle is not a perfect 360 days anymore in a year is because God stopped the sun. It was in the Bible, in the sky, and turned it back in a sundial. Now, I forget how many hours that was or minutes he turned it back, but it would be interesting to look into the actually matches. I'm not sure if it does, because I always thought that it was
10 degrees on a shadow.
10 degrees on a shadow?
Yeah.
I always thought it was because the flood, something damaged our cycle. And I don't know what it was. I mean, the fountains of the deep broke open. We don't know how God caused that. But I always thought that's why we have a longer cycle now, 5 extra and 5 and what? It's the quarter? That's because it's a leap year or something? But
365, and then occasionally there's a leap year every 4 years, which even then that wasn't happening for a while, and they had to factor that in to keep it on track. Yeah, I know the flood definitely changed things up. Oh, obviously it shook things up. It was a global flood that wiped out all the life that was on the earth. So yeah, as far as timekeeping, maybe, like you said, that could have an influence. But I know that the Earth itself had to undergo a change because there was a difference there, even in dietary stuff. That's where the change happened at the flood, where God was like, you can eat, I forget what it is, all things that are, I shouldn't paraphrase the Bible, but it's in it's in Genesis. I believe Genesis 8 is when the flood has receded. So there's your homework. Everybody can go and read Genesis 8. But yeah, I see Mitch is saying the flood possibly caused the tilt on the Earth's axis. Yeah. I mean, it was a catastrophe, a massive catastrophe. So, like I said, it had to mess with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Thrown out of whack. And obviously, again, that's because of sin, because everyone's hearts were only conceiving evil, and it was just miserable on the face of the earth. So, what are you going to do? I think God made the right call, right?
Yeah. No, God, I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. That's all I'm going to say. I'm comfortable with I've seen how loving He is, and I've seen how He's worked with people over time, and truly, I deserve much worse. A popular financial advisor always says, "I'm better than I deserve," and I believe that's That's me. So I think, you know, if God decides this is far enough, it's probably because I, you know, whatever it is, wouldn't be able to get back to the place because they aren't searching anymore. So praise God for grace.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Ellen says, I like this with Matthew getting the main screen when he's presenting. I'm actually not a fan of having the big screen, mainly because I'm like limited on space. So I feel like my camera, and that wasn't a cue for you to change it, Brad, but it's just, I feel my camera is so much closer to me. If I could, I would be like a couple of steps back, but I don't have the room to do that. So it's just got to be what it is. And I always feel like my face is like stretched out and huge on this, but it's probably just because I'm not used to seeing it that way either. So
No, it's good because most people watch on their phones, and so I actually should zoom it into my face, but I haven't set that up.
Well, we know how close you can zoom. You can zoom pretty close.
It's not even in focus. What is up with this focus tonight?
Don't get upset about it, man. That's all right.
That's what it is. It is what it is. I'll fix it later. We had chaos happen this week. That's why.
Yeah. No, I mean it's sometimes the week and the day can shake you up. I'm not going to. Sorry, I know this is like kind of random. I'm not. I don't want to misquote, right? Because I said I'm not going to misquote the Bible. But I like this. It's from Matthew 6:34. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Therefore, take no thought for the morrow shall take thought of the things of itself. And normally, I had always I'd read over it, and that's kind of where I guess my brain stopped kind of digesting it. But there's one more sentence in Matthew 6:34, and it's sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And that really ties it in so nicely. It's just like Jesus is reassuring you, like, you've got enough to worry about in a single day. You know, like, a lot can go on in a day, depending on what happens. And it's like, yeah, you're right, Jesus. I do have enough on my plate. Why do I try to walk back up for seconds and say, nah, give me tomorrow's too. I got it. And the whole week, pile it on. It's like, I got a lot to carry, but you know.
That's right. Elijah Project says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be in the last days. They're from Anglo in Italy. Nice to join you guys. It's 5 a.m. there in the morning.
Wow.
Getting ready for work. Nice to join you. God bless you. Fantastic.
God bless you as well. And you have a very a wonderful day at work.
Yeah.
Very productive day. I hope that you have many opportunities to live out your faith.
Yeah.
In the work environment, because we all need to do that a bit more. You know, it's like when we're in the world, actually, that's where it can become difficult, when you're out in the world and you're just a part of that crowd. But you have to know, it's like, no, I'm not just in this crowd. Like, God wants me to be set apart. He wants me to behave differently, to think differently, to live differently, and that can be very, very difficult. Speaking from experience. And that's where prayer kicks in, and God can help you out. Because there's been times where I definitely, where I was tempted to do something or like act in a way that I'm not meant to do, and then it's just like that still voice just kind of rings in my ears, and it's like, Matthew, this is not how you're supposed to live. This is not how you're supposed to behave. It's like, you're right. I don't want to. Please help me to make the right choice. And then you just go through with it. And it's a beautiful experience. And that's part of living out your faith. I think even Paul talked about that in his writings, where it's like, I do the things that I don't want to do, and what I don't want to do are the things that I do. That kind of contradictory nature. But then it's like all about dying to yourself daily.
No, it's the hardest thing.
So important.
Yeah, especially relationships and people and friendships and all this other stuff. It's very difficult to treat others and when you're hurt by them, and then be happy, be happy with yourself. Because if you're not happy and with them, you're not happy with God. It's not about being happy. Let me get that point across first. But you're definitely not going to have any joy in your life if you are not right with God first. You're not going to be able to sleep at night. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. Jason C says, not a regular in chat, but definitely keep up with y'all 100% and appreciate the biblical perspective y'all bring to the table. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jason. I'm glad you're here in the live chat so you can comment. I know we've got a lot of people who watch the show after the fact and just can't catch the lives, mainly, I think, because of where they are in the world or even just some of the obligations they have during our showtime. But if you're here in the live chat, thank you. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you. And I hope you've enjoyed just this additional time to sit down and talk to the community, take some questions and do some answers. I know I realized again I forgot to do the commentary that I've been trying to go with, where I take a comment and I answer it on air before the segment. I will try to remember. It's been difficult to do that, especially now that I have access to some editing software. I'm putting together like super clips and I'm using that and I'm like excited about it and I'm chopping up footage in ways that I wasn't able to before, and it just slips my mind, and it's like 5 minutes before I go on I'm like, no, I forgot the comment. So that has happened. I think that's happened twice now. I'm going to try to do it, but if I'm not doing that, then stick around to the end, ask the questions here if you're in the live chat, because I do love using this Thursday time to interact with the community. We got a great community.
The Elijah Project says, how can I join the after show? Thank you, Angelo from Italy. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Just press like. Yeah, everyone hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber to the channel. And I just want to say, yeah, if you want to join, we do have something called the after show. We used to do the after show here. But we, on Sunday nights afterwards, we take the show offline and put it on Patreon. So if you want to join the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/strangenormal. Strange Normal is the YouTube name, and you can join us there. We do a extra show, a little short show, just normally talking about different things between us.
Yeah, it ranges. Sometimes it's like around 10 minutes. Sometimes it goes out to 45 minutes. It's just, whatever is on the mind. Sometimes there's whatever. I think the last one was a little shorter because I was like editing as soon as we were off air. I think maybe I was a little detached because I briefly looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of just like in my own world. That's because I was looking and I was doing the editing. Doing the editing on the latest video that we have on the channel, which if you haven't seen it, please go and take a look at it and share it and do whatever you're going to do with it, because that one, the most recent one about the Pope and the climate change and talking about the identity of the beast, that I believe, this is a biblical perspective that I have. I think Brad shares that perspective as well. It took more time to edit and put together because there's a lot of moving elements in it. There's like things that I went through and had to find videos of and source things out, but really, really happy with that one. So check it out if you haven't. Give it a like, spread it around. It's good stuff. More of those videos on the way, which I've been getting really good feedback. I don't think I even need to ask, what do you guys think about the produced stuff? Because I've asked, and you guys have definitely gotten back to me through the comment section, just saying that you really enjoy the edits, that they're good and they're engaging and they're fun and you're sharing them, and that's awesome, because that's what it's all about, really. I mean, it's like it makes that the efforts very worthwhile, So thank you to everybody watching and sharing and doing all that stuff. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Christy Inskip here says, love the produced material. You got more coming. I'm going to produce something off of this one for sure.
And I recorded it tonight, so now you'll have a recording to edit immediately. It takes a while it takes about 24 hours for YouTube actually to get the stuff available for us to grab again after we do a live stream. So I started to record us instead, so we have something to edit.
Yeah, because it puts me behind sometimes when I'm like looking to get on the editing and I don't have anything to edit. It's like, what's going on? All right. Well, before we close out, I just also want to say we are getting so close to 10,000 subscribers.
Yes. Thank you for doing this.
So everybody, I was just going to say, get the word out on the channel. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button already. You made it this far into the video. You know you like it. You know you want more of it. So subscribe. Just subscribe right now. That's what you need to do.
We have
right
20?
here.
How much do we have left? We have about 24 more people left. And we will have 10,000. So that's exciting.
We're right there. We also have we have a little something fun set aside for 10,000 viewers. So we'll show that off on a fireside, I think, on a Thursday. Well, at the very end, and I'll let you know when that is. Well, you'll know. You'll see 10,000 subscribers, and that's when you know. Oh, I better tune in, because there's going to be a little. I don't want to spoil anything. It's just a little something cool. It's cool, and it's a cool thing to look at and to look forward to. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. I'll leave it right there.
We're at 9,976. So that's 24 left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exciting. So that should be so tell your aunts, uncles, and 42 cousins. We want subscribers, and this is a perfect time to talk about this stuff, all this strange stuff, but primarily spiritual deceptions that are coming. We talk about the last day spiritual deceptions primarily, and all the strange stuff, Thursdays and Sundays. So join us, bring your family, talk, and this season when you go over to all your family's house, say, "Oh, are you guys watching Strange Normal? You guys got to see this. This is crazy." And check it out. So get them to the.
Even if they don't care, just be like, "Oh, look at this channel. You just subscribe to it. just go ahead, just do it."
It'll appear in their feed. So, and the truth be known, this is behind the scenes stuff. But if they watch one video on here for a specific period of time, YouTube doesn't tell you exactly what that time period is. It's a portion. It's a percentage of the video for all the way through, like 25%. I forget what it is. It will start recommending the whole channel, all the videos in the channel inside their feed without them even being subscribed to it. So, I mean, just watch one video while you're on they're logged into their account, and it'll automatically feed it to them. That's a little hack if you didn't know.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, I think on that note, Brad, would you like to say a prayer for us to end on? And please, when you pray, this is just a request from me. Can you explicitly mention Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson in this prayer? Yeah. I think we do need to definitely pray for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They come into the fullness of truth.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for giving us time to come together and resources like these to spread your truth and look at this stuff from a biblical perspective through the Bible lens and understand what's coming down the pipeline for us. We ask that these leaders that have such a big voice hear you more clearly. And we know that the more prayers that are sent up, the more possibilities it is for them to be able to hear and understand truth the more. So not only do we pray for them, but we ask that you remind our audience to pray for these people too, specifically Tucker and Alex. Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, as their reach is so broad, and they can reach so many people for you for saying just the smallest thing to bring good truth to your cause. And ultimately, that's what we want, is whatever it is that you want, because you are a loving God and an honest God. And we look forward to the day where we don't have to worry about what's down here on earth, but you take us home. We love you, God. Amen.
Amen. Okay, well, this has been another episode of Fireside. Draw close to God, and He will draw close to you. And just stay cozy by the fireside. Thank you. We love you.